Legg, author of The Missing Piece and diagnosed with ADHD at 52. Welcome to ADH Difference. In this episode, I chat with Dr. Jamie Raygoza. Now, he is the founder of Rainbow Career Coaching, and we talk about time management, stress management, burnout, thriving with ADHD in the workplace, and also touch on laughter yoga. Jamie was diagnosed as an adult, and he shares his personal journey and experiences too. Well, it's so lovely to have you join us today. Nice to meet you, Jamie.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, most welcome. We've got lots to chat about today, but I guess centered around, let's start with the ADHD. And I understand your diagnosis was relatively recently.
Yeah, I was diagnosed at 30, so it was in late of 2022, and it was in the midst of the pandemic. So still trying to find out things that I noticed that were really hard for me, but wasn't hard for my peers. And I sought therapy, and I asked myself, hey, what's wrong with me? Why am I having these difficulties? My peers are not struggling as much. I feel like my work performance is going down. It was just very impactful, especially with the whole isolation and everything that went through. And my therapist was like, yeah, this is not normal. Let's try to see if we can maybe do some screeners and see what we can do. And one thing led to another, and after doing several different processes, I got the diagnosis at the end. And it took because we started the conversation in 2020, so I didn't get the diagnosis until a year and a half later.
Wow. And you were saying you were struggling with certain things that your peers weren't. Are you able to share the sorts of things that were tripping you up?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was in person, a lot of the body doubling that we understand now in ADHD language, which is foreign to people that are not neurodivergent. I was very successful with other people around me, even though they weren't interacting with me. Just having them around me kept me on track, and I was super diligent. I got things done. I was always on track of things. But when I was alone, I didn't have that accountability. I didn't have that sense of people there. So my mind would wander. I would do everything but the task that was assigned to me. I would find myself cleaning my dashboards. I would be, over here spring cleaning and doing things that was still on my to-do list, but it wasn't what I needed to get done. And I just struggled to sit down and do what I needed to do. And I was like, why am I so distracted? And I used to call myself lazy because I was just something's wrong with me that I'm just being this lazy, but it's not that. It's just that my mind works differently. We needed to readjust. But until I got that diagnosis, I honestly I felt so bad about myself. I felt like I was a failure and that something was innately wrong with me. But it was a cathartic, relieving moment. But at the same time, I was a little upset because I was just I've struggled with this all my life. And if I would have known this sooner, I could have trained my brain and trained my habits to work better with the way my mind works.
That is a very common reaction too. So you're certainly not alone with that regard. Were there any other concerns about having a label or a diagnosis for you? Did anything else worry you other than lost time, perhaps?
I think if I was diagnosed earlier, it's a two-sided sword because I have 11 going on 12 years of mental health advocacy and working with children with ADHD, that I've learned that it's okay to have that label. We're all made differently and we're not made out of the same cookie cutter mold. So what makes us different makes us special and makes us unique, and what makes us us. And it's beautiful. And I didn't have this mentality, let's say 10 years ago. So I think if I did have an earlier label put on me, I think that would have hit my mental health a lot differently than it is. So I do believe things happen for a reason, and things when you have to know things.
Yeah. Now you're a career development coach, and also you focus on stress management as well. Since your diagnosis, has that new understanding helped your coaching?
Yes, definitely. So a lot of the techniques that I give out typically work really well with people with ADHD because they work with me, right? And
Yes.
what I thought was unique and thing like I was like people who are not neurodivergent, they're like that's a very interesting way of putting things, and it works for them too. But what I ended up noticing is that I attracted a lot of people who were also neurodivergent because they were like, I liked what you said and that worked, and I've gotten advice and it never worked, and this is the first time that I've done something and I actually followed through. And I was just like, oh, that's awesome. So when I actually started paying attention, a lot of my clients were, as they call them, neurospicy.
Absolutely. And what sort of, or what are the biggest career challenges that your clients are coming to you for help with? What's coming up as your top three?
I would say one is late stage diagnosis where they're kind of like me and they get diagnosed at a late age and they're like, well, what now? Like what like how does this define me? How does this change me? And how am I supposed to move forward with this new label? And it does put like a little bit of a fork into their processes because they're going through this identity like adaptation and a little bit of an identity crisis. And they don't know if they should continue things as they usually did or if there's easier ways of getting things done. And if like maybe some of these things that they thought maybe I should never pursue that path because I'm just not good at it, is it because they were just not going at it the right way because of the way their brain works? So one easy thing, like one client comes to mind. She was told that she talks too fast and that she talked too much during meetings and that she would sometimes interrupt people. And she was um, always kind of like put down, saying that she would never be in a leadership position because she doesn't know how to listen. And I told her, it's not that you don't know how to listen, it's that you process 10 times faster than a normal person. So you're constantly going in. So I was like, let's try some different techniques. Instead of verbalizing it, write them down. Write everything down because the reason you're trying to say everything so fast is because you feel that you're going to forget because your mind goes a lot faster than usual. So if you take notes and you write down your bullet points, you have placeholders for you to go. And if you're, working virtually, you can type up your notes. You can even record the session. I'll ask for permission. That way you can re-listen to it and then really process it better the second time. She's like, I never thought about that. So I can become a leader. And I was like, you can. You just have to learn how your brain works and be able to organize yourself a lot better so you can be successful. So it's kind of like things like that, where things that you once thought was not possible and you shine a little bit of light on them and they're like, wow, I actually can do this. I just have to change the tactic that I was going into it.
And often, for us late diagnosed ADHDers, it is all we've ever known. And so then to think, oh gosh, other people aren't like me. They don't think the same way as I do. Um, yeah, that's interesting. It's that change of perception, really, and how you can still be brilliant, but just go about it in a different way that other people can help understand you. Now, I'll sneak in this because I think it's wonderful. Tell me about your laughter yoga.
Yeah, so I use that a lot for my stress management coaching. And with that is simple enough is that we forget as adults, we forget to have fun and to enjoy life. And it gets really easy, especially with things going on either in your workplace, your personal life, around the world. It's super easy for us to find the joy in things. And when I got introduced to laughter yoga, it changed my life. It was just something that really inspired me, allowed me to re-enter play into my life and just laugh and just have the best way to kind of heal your soul in a sense. And it's a simple practice that was invented in India in the 1990s. And excuse me, it basically incorporates yogic breathing, usually yoga nidra, with simple laughter exercises to allow your body to laugh naturally without having the need of a joke or forced to laughter. And it's just a natural way to laugh, breathe, get more oxygen into your brain, and reduce those stress hormones.
Does it also release some dopamine in the
Yes, a lot
process?
of dopamine. Yes.
which is great. And don't, for those of us who are not medicated for ADHD, like myself, those little spikes of dopamine just to help top up levels is brilliant. And that's something you can practice yourself once you've learnt the techniques. So you don't necessarily need to be in a group. You can be
No.
sitting in the car and happily laugh away.
Oh, yes. I've gotten into a habit of whenever I'm going into a stressful situation or if I feel overwhelmed or overstimulated, I'll walk away. I will go to my car or sometimes I'll step outside and I was like, we just need a 10-minute break. And I'll just laugh. Or if they want to entertain it with me, whoever I'm with, I was like, just want to laugh together. And let's just do a couple exercises. And it could be simple as doing a counting laughter where you just add one laugh each time, or you start doing like one breathe in, like kind of like the box breathing, but instead of releasing regular air, you're releasing laughter. So there's a lot of different techniques you can do that literally it just takes 30 seconds to reset your brain, get that dopamine rush, and get you in a better mood almost instantly.
That's a wonderful strategy to have available. That's amazing. Um, Now, you also talk about time management, and that's another challenge in the workplace. Can you specifically talk to time management and how, yeah, some tips and tricks that can help us?
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually one of the other things that people usually come to me is they feel like they don't know how to manage their time, and time blindness is something that is really big in the ADHD world. You
Mm,
will say, I'm just going to do this one more task and I'll go on to whatever I need to do. And then that one task went and it was like 3 hours, 4 hours. And you're like, where did my time go? What happened here? And I always tell people you have to pretend that you're blind to time and you can't trust your inner clock because it's a little unreliable. It has the battery's not as good as the other people that can tell like 5 minutes from 5 minutes. Your 5 minutes can be 30 minutes compared to the average Joe. So you really do have to set timers. You have to be able to set alarms. I say if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to happen. And make sure that you have some type of alert or ding or something to remind you to keep on track. And I struggle with this the same way as a lot of my clients, which is basic functions that you need to survive, such as eating, taking breaks, going to the restroom. You need to add those into your calendar too, because it's so easy for one to just say, "Oh, I'm so it's my lunchtime, but let me just finish this task and then I'll get to it." And then by the time that you realize it's the end of the day, you still haven't ate, you're feeling tired, you're feeling like lethargic, and you're like, why am I so drained? Well, you didn't eat any day. You didn't eat, you
mm.
didn't drink water, you didn't relieve yourself from the stress that you're having, and you're just accumulating it over time. So keep a very strict schedule, set reminders, and I would say always give yourself a buffer. Don't just do back-to-back meetings because that's not realistic for us. If you have a meeting, let's say in the morning, add like a buffer of, taking a break, doing some admin work, whatever it may be, to give yourself that breathing room to process and kind of calm down from whatever just happened before you enter the next one, because most likely things are going to go late and you have to like plan ahead as much as possible.
Great words, very good words of advice. Um, the other thing too is for those of us, again, diagnosed later, often our traits are very exposed in a work environment, and we're very
Mhm.
aware of our over talking, perhaps, or interrupting, as the example you gave earlier. And it can, through observation, what we're doing well or what we're not doing so well, it can lower our self confidence in the workplace. How does one build their confidence in the workplace? Let's say there's an ADHD diagnosis. How do you reset that enthusiasm and trust and self belief?
One thing I do have to say is that ADHD is on a spectrum. So not everybody's going to have the same type of symptoms. So what may be mild for some may be more severe for others. So one, recognize to learn your body and don't try to associate yourself. Like if you're watching on Instagram or TikTok or videos and you're like, this person says this is what an ADHD person looks like and acts like, that's all me, everything attributes to me. No, it's not, like I said, not a cookie cutter. So get to learn your body first, because the first step for confidence is really knowing what skills you have, what I don't want to call it a weakness, but what things you don't do so well, and how can you learn to work around those to build up to your strengths. And it's easy for us to start thinking negatively about ourselves. Like, one statistic that always blows my mind is we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and 75% of those are negative.
Oh, wow.
So you can only imagine, this is based on a neurotypical individual. So knowing that people who are neurodivergent have more thoughts, and we are more hypercritical than the average person, imagine the statistic, what that would actually impact us. So we have to keep that in mind. So we're 10 times more likely to be hypercritical of ourselves. So we have to be able to give ourselves grace. And instead of letting it happen in here, talk about it. Talk to your peers. Hey, do you mind just setting a time to have a quick coffee chat, just so we can kind of see what are some things you've noticed that are good about my performance? What are some things that you notice that I can do better? And then acknowledge those things, and then constantly reassure you based on what other people are telling you versus what you tell yourself. Talk to your supervisor, and then just note down these things, and then seeing how you can improve yourself. Because the thing is that, yeah, you may not function like everybody else, but there's certain things that you do that bring the team together, that end up, like, making the process work a lot better. So, and that's the same with everybody. So, like, there's going to be good and there's going to be bad. It's never just all bad.
That's so true. And we certainly do bring things to the table. There's a huge, big list of positive things, and I hope our listeners are very aware of theirs. But sometimes finding your strengths can be a bit difficult for some, but they are certainly there, which is awesome. You also talk about embracing authenticity, your authentic self in the workplace. Do you have any suggestions about how to go about that, really?
Yeah, and it really goes with, who do you want to show up as every day? Do you want to show up as someone who you're not, where you constantly have to put up this front and masking yourself into what you think people want? Or isn't it just easier if you can just show up as yourself, as just being you? If you want to crack a joke, then crack a joke. If you want to be able to, wear certain things, and wear the certain things. Of course, with reason. You can't, depending on your workplace, you can't just show up or whatnot. But in your everyday life, do what you want, dress as you want, whatever hair color you want, whatever. It also scales up your confidence, because you're trusting yourself enough to just allow yourself to be you. And it will increase your happiness. It will increase your sense of self. And it goes back to really realizing, who am I? And one of the things that people usually think, I'm going to be this person, this version of myself, because I have to be professional and I have to, do this in order to get the promotion. But the problem is that eventually that facade will break. You're going to have some emotion or some situation that's going to cause you to break out of character. And people are going to feel like they don't know you, because they truly don't. You were a version of them, of who you thought they should be. And when they get to know the real you, you only cause disappointment, because it feels like you lied to them. So to avoid that relationship to occur, that problem, just be yourself and just do you one step at a time, and the right people will get attracted by you.
That's really interesting. And I can see how, when starting a new job, walking in as your authentic self, you've got a fresh start. If you've been in a job or role for a certain period of time and have been masking, as we often do, for such a long time, and you talk about something happening out of character, when in fact it very much is character, but has been disguised. Any recommendations on how to go from, or how to unmask, really, in a work environment when potentially managers, peers, colleagues have seen you or have seen a different side of you?
It's just communicating and being very frank and saying, like, hey, I just want to talk to you. I feel that I haven't really been able to be myself. Entering this place, I thought that I had to act this certain way in order to be feel respected, but it's very exhausting. It's very emotionally like draining, and that's not who I am. So I'm gonna let like these next few days, you're gonna start seeing who I truly am, and just let me know how you feel, and let me know how that is for you. And I just really want to be myself because I feel like I haven't been that person, and just starting to like little by little, just lowering those walls. And honestly, the people around you are not going to take it as badly as you think they are. It's giving yourself permission is the hardest part because we feel that we're going to disappoint people, but it's not about disappointing other people. It's about making yourself proud.
That's wonderful. And you're an advocate for inclusivity in the workplace too.
Yes.
Can you share your experiences and what's worked and how we can be advocates for our own inclusivity in our workplaces too?
Yeah. So a lot of the work that I do revolves around just inclusivity with like LGBTQ plus community as well as multi-ethnic community, and really using the privileges that we have, because everybody has a certain level of privilege, some more than others, and using that to help really have the people that don't have as much privilege have a voice and advocating for them as well. So is, for example, me as a male, I have a certain privilege that I can help my female counterparts and really advocate for them. So whenever I'm in work meetings and I'm noticing that, like, be hyper vigilant, don't just cruise by, like, be attentive about wanting to make change happen. So if you notice that during a work meeting, a lot of your female counterparts are not being heard, or kind of like their ideas are being shut down, speak up and be like, actually, let's hear so and so's idea again. I found that very interesting. And I was like, oh, that's a very good idea. Like, like, let's do that. Or collaborate with peers that you normally wouldn't collaborate, and include people in certain activities that you wouldn't normally include, and creating the change. We're so used to status quo, but just because something has been like that the long way, like for a long period of time, doesn't mean that that's the best way, or the most inclusive and respectful way to do that. And just really incorporating people to feel heard, to feel seen, and also learning about microaggressions and learning about other people's cultures so that you can be respectful and not say something inappropriate. And if you do say something inappropriate, own up to it, apologize, learn, and do better the next time.
That's great. And I guess too, we can be advocates for ADHD in our workplace as well. And while it doesn't necessarily mean anything massive, but just as we educate ourselves, so how our brain works, sharing that in conversation with our colleagues too is good. So I think there's still a bit of stigma around ADHD specifically, and anything that we can share that is factual to help educate others, I think is really important too. Now, you also deal with a lot of people going through burnout, which I completely can relate to. What are some warning signs that some of your clients really should look out for that burnout might be imminent?
So the sad truth is that a lot of people with ADHD or who are neurospicy are more likely to get burnout because we like to go full in whatever we do. So it's not just like in our careers, but even in our personal lives. And I always make this joke with people with ADHD, and I tell them, where in your house do you keep all of your failed projects, or all of like the projects that are half done that you haven't finished yet? And then people just kind of look around and they're like, yeah, there, for everything, because we tend to go full in. There's no like half starting something or just giving it a test trial. No, perfect example. I'll put myself on as an example. I said I was going to go scuba diving and I was going to take one class, but instead of just taking that one class and renting the stuff, I went to go buy all of the gear. I like purchased a package. I did like all of these like private lessons. And am I doing it now? No. Like it's like all this, it's over there. And then like I switched to fishing, and I bought all of the tackle, all the bait, all the stuff to degut the fish. Have I actually fished? No. You know? And we like go pull in. And the thing is that we need to take a step back and take a breather. Yeah. And this can count for work too, because the thing is that we'll get obsessed over a project, or we'll get obsessed over a certain policy or procedure or something that we find interesting in the time, and remind yourself, take it easy. Don't go too quickly, too fast, because you're going to obsess over it, get overstressed, not put the right type of pacing, and you're going to basically burn out. And the problem is that with leaders, if they see that you're doing really good at something really quickly, they're going to want you to do more of it. And they will fall into the trap of giving you more. And now you're like, why do I have all these responsibilities that I didn't have before? But it's because you didn't set the proper boundaries and you didn't communicate that. And also you went too fast, too quickly. So that was a long-winded answer to get to the answer. In order for you to be able to like see the red flags, is one, if you're feeling like you're going too fast and you're getting a lot done and you're just like avoiding other things, that's one red flag. Two, is there any boundaries that are set for me to not get burnt out? So do you have a set clock out time? Do you have a set time that you're going to be going in? Do you have some type of work-life balance? What are you doing to decompress after work? Because what burnout is just an abundance of stress that is unregulated. And it's just like festering inside our bodies, just growing and growing every day until the point where it caps out and we just lose all empathy. We lose all sense of joy. We lose our motivation, and we're just an empty shell. And the unfortunate part is that burnout can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to recover. So once you get to that point, it's going to take a long time to recover through that journey. And it's not always an easy one. So if you're feeling that stress, that sense of, and your body gives you signs too, like you'll get headaches, you'll get irregular bowel movements, you'll notice tension in your shoulders and different parts of your body. You'll start feeling sluggish, not wanting to wake up, like sleep, not being able to fall asleep, lack of appetite or overindulgence of food. All of these are like big indicators that you're either experiencing burnout or you're well on your way to get burnt out.
Wow. And then the flip side of that, I guess, is thriving with ADHD in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
How do you encourage your clients to thrive, not just survive?
So one is like I said, getting to know your body really well. What are you really good at? And like really getting to know where you thrive in the organization, and talking to your management and talking to your leaders, and even getting positions that you have a passion for and you're going to be good at. One thing that people with ADHD thrive in is in chaos situations. So if you're doing program management or problem management, we tend to be the most calm, cool, collected, because we process things so quickly that you're like, oh, this is nothing, and we thrive in chaos. So maybe something like that would be really good for problem solving. So if there's a certain situation where you need to find the bottlenecks of a certain organization, that's something that's going to go really well for you. If there's a certain tasks where you feel that you just gained a lot of knowledge because you hyper fixated on it, and now you just like are really, really good on that, then by all means, be the expert in that, be a consultant, be something that play with your strengths and finding out exactly what is it that you're good at, and then focusing on that and then going in deeper. But of course, not everything that you're good at, you're going to enjoy. So knowing the difference between the two, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you have to always do that as well.
It's all about balance. Something that we're not particularly good at, but good to strive for. And of course, there'll be those that are really struggling to find a career path.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have clients that are a bit stuck as to which direction they're going? Can you talk or share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is very common for people who get diagnosed at a later time, because the things that they wanted to do as a child, they felt they were given one excuse or another that they couldn't because of the certain barriers that they could reach. So maybe it was a way of functioning, or like I said, my client that said that she was too loud, that she couldn't be a leader because of that. So really revisiting that, like, is the reason that I'm not going into something because I gave myself that limitation because of my diagnosis or lack of diagnosis. And really revisiting what has brought me passion. And it doesn't always have to be lucrative. Like I say, always just pretend in a world if you can get paid like all money that you needed to do what you love to do, what would it be? And take those little things and search, is there a job that does do something like this that I can make like a living out of? And if not, is there a business I can start that's revolved around that passion and then create the job that I want? So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but it does really go down to first really get to know yourself, relearn what brings joy, what maybe in the past what brought you joy, or what is it that you wanted to do as a child, and then really revisit those topics and then go from there. But you just have to be curious and be open-minded.
And I think we're very good at that. Naturally we are. So that's exciting. Now, I notice our listeners won't be able to see this, but you've got a beautiful, what would I call it? Art display on your wall, on your office wall. Note to self. Could you read us out some of those wonderful words of wisdom?
Yeah, of course. So it's note to self. Your feelings are valid. Your boundaries are important. You are doing the best you can. It's okay to ask for help. You are worthy and lovable. You're allowed to say no. You're capable of amazing things. And it's okay to start over and try again.
Great words there. Well, you must have a very interesting role and different types of characters and situations that clients find themselves in coming to you for assistance. Would you be able to share what you love most about your work?
I think what I love the most about my work is it's never the same thing twice. So even though there's some little commonalities in the struggles that people have, they each come with a unique perspective and unique thing. And like I said, do what you love and find out what where you're good at. I'm really good at problem solving. So that's why I dived into this career, because for me, each person comes to me with the problem and then we work together to help come up with a solution to that problem. And that sense of joy and relief that they get when they find out that they're not alone in this and there's others that have struggled with this. And I would say helping people learn that the goal that they once thought was impossible is possible. Something you can never take away. It's something that, like I say, you get a second paycheck of the heart because you're able to help someone live a more fruitful life.
Absolutely. Now, the name of your business is Rainbow Coaching?
Rainbow Career Coaching.
Career Coaching, brilliant. Now, all of your details will be in the show notes of this episode. So if anyone's listening who would like to get in touch with you, your website details and your social handles and all of it will be down there for people to refer to. So Jamie, it's been wonderful chatting with you. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you sharing your journey and your experience with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate what you're doing. What you're doing is amazing. And I'm glad that you set up a platform to really address this.
Thank you.